Races of 15 laps await the riders, 57 miles per race. Dave Leach, the Yorkshireman now living in Northern Ireland, is carrying the on-bike camera for us. And as you can see for yourselves, pretty tight action round here between the Iron Armco. Across the front row, pole position, Didier de Radiguez. Then it's Eddie Laycock second. These are the men really on the factory machines. It's significant they're first and second in practice. So the Suzuki of de Radiguez, number 27 in pole position. Eddie Laycock is there in second. Roger Bennett on the Ducati was third, fastest in practice. Completing the front row, Donald Jacks on a Kawasaki from the USA, and Andy Hoffman. Donald Jacks on the Suzuki, I beg your pardon, and Andy Hoffman on a Kawasaki making up the lineup. But look straight into the front, number 27, de Radiguez. With Dave Leach then, you can see just how narrow this circuit is between the Armco, designed primarily for Formula 3 car racing. Not the ideal circuit for motorcycle road racing, but 32 starters have all got safely away. The cement dust you saw being kicked up at the start of the race was from an earlier practice spill, and a lot of these are big four-strokes, and they dump their insides all over the track if they go down heavily. A lot of oil then to be spilled if a big four-stroke goes down. But we're looking really for the 500cc Grand Prix two-strokes of Laycock and de Radiguez to feature prominently, and that's exactly the bike that's out in front at the moment, number 27, Didier de Radiguez. We're with Dave Leach, though, the Ulsterman, who is very, very fast on the real road circuits, as are so many of his fellow countrymen who are in this race. Robert Dunlop, of course, will be going well. Roger Bennett from Scotland on the sports motorcycles Ducati had a stunning practice time, third fastest. But there's the race leader, de Radiguez. From number 18, Tony Heiler from Germany. World Superbike contender Tony Heiler, also a very good man in the National Superbike Series. There's Roger Bennett, number 19. Heiler then. Number 8 in third place is Peter Rabato on the Lux Yamaha. Known as Mr. Superbike in his home country, Germany, Peter Rabato lurking in third. Then it looks as though it's Phil McCallum riding number 9 in fourth place. I'll confirm that just as soon as I can. You can see how tight this circuit is. Sun-baked spectators. De Radiguez leads, number 27. Then it's Tony Heiler. Then it's Rabato. Peter Rabato and Heiler, they're old sparring partners. They know each other's tactics very, very well indeed. Scrapping for second and third place. Up goes Tony Heiler's head out of the slipstream. Back with Dave Leach. The whole pack getting pretty strung out as race one then gets underway and into some sort of fashion. De Radiguez, the man who bought his way into the Suzuki team alongside the world superstar Kevin Schwantz, thereby depriving Britain's Neil Mackenzie out of the coveted number 2 slot in the Suzuki team. But de Radiguez acquitted himself reasonably well in the 1991 season, and the hot rumor is that this man, number 27, will retire at the end of the season, this in fact then being his last race. On lap 2, Tony Heiler, number 18, still in second place. A scrap very much alive, however, for third, fourth, fifth, sixth, as they disappear into the distance, up through the gearbox again. It is indeed number 9, Phil McCallum, the Ulsterman on the Silkaleen Honda, in fourth place. McCallum very much a road specialist. 16 there, Robert Dunlop on a borrowed Yamaha. On the Colin Aldridge Yamaha, Dunlop was hoping, he's number 16, was hoping to bring the Norton here to Macau, but Norton were unable for various reasons to provide the machinery. Convincing display. The maneuverability, of course, of the factory Suzuki. And just look at the length of this wheelie all the way down the start-finish straight from de Radiguez. The only reason he puts it down is because he has a corner to negotiate at the end. That was power indeed. The sheer power of the 500 V4 RGV 500 Suzuki. More than a match for the big 750cc and in some cases 1100cc four-strokes in this race. Tony Heiler, number 18, still in second. McCallum then has gone up into third. Peter Rabato has gone. So number 8, third place man Peter Rabato has gone from the running. Up into third place now has gone the number 9, Phil McCallum, chasing Tony Heiler. Heiler, number 18, in second place, and looking very good indeed, Tony Heiler. On the Emonts Yamaha. Robert Dunlop now closing. Roger Bennett, number 19, right on the tail end of Robert Dunlop. So a mighty scrap going on for third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. There is Eddie Laycock. I beg your pardon, there is Didier de Radiguez. I thought for a moment it was the red and yellow of the Joe Miller YZR 500. That's the race leader. We're looking for Eddie Laycock, who had a dreadful start from the front row and is having to work all the way through the pack. That looks like the Hislop pack, and no, it isn't. That's retirement there. It was one of the Silcoline Hondas. Could well have been Roger Burnett, the number 10 bike of Roger Burnett sidelined there. It looked like a Honda Britain bike to me, but just momentarily we saw a flash of it. But we're back with Dave Leach in the thick of the action. Race leader still, Didier de Radiguez, the very, very amiable, likeable Belgian de Radiguez, who has had a variety of machines under him during his wealth of Grand Prix experience. Just look at Tony Heiler. Around the outside goes Robert Dunlop. Then it's Roger Bennett scything through on the inside of Phil McCallan, number 9. So this is really close stuff, bearing in mind the dangers on this circuit. No room for error at all. Armco barrier and stone walls. This is, I think, where we will see the true road racing specialists, such as the men who feature one in the TT, and we're riding with one now, Dave Leach. Camera mounted just down on the front right-hand side of the fairing, just ahead of Leach's brake pedal. We saw Hislop in the picture there, so it was indeed Roger Burnett who retired. Number 2, Michel Simeon, the Belgian, leading that pursuing pack. And there is Eddie Laycock. Eddie Laycock is right in the middle of that traffic, fighting his way through. 24, Chuck Graves, about to be pushed further down the order. Dave Leach then. Number 7, motoring on, the man from Yorkshire who now lives in Ulster, works and lives in Ulster. Hyuga, one of the Japanese, and they're here in force, not really coming to terms with this. So Hyuga, the little Japanese, number 23 then, retiring his Honda. Heiler, Phil McCallan, number 9, going through on the inside and ducks through, but look at the progress now of Eddie Laycock, who has gone past McCallan. So Laycock now very much on the charge on the YZR 500 Joe Miller bike. Race leader still. Now Laycock is up to third and really charging. Eddie Laycock, number 12, on the Yamaha, is in third place. That just says it all. 136.4 kilometers per hour around here. A death-defying feat. And Laycock now is closing dramatically on the second place man. Tony Heiler then, number 18. He is the 4-stroke filling in the 2-stroke sandwich, because race leader, this man, number 27, Didier de Radiguez, has got his nose firmly in front. Laycock is now up to second. So factory V4 2-strokes are in first and second. Suzuki in first. And a fall of that 69, Dave Woolhams has dumped the Ducati. So Dave Woolhams striving to pick up the big V-twin Ducati 4-stroke. Gets his leg back across, but he's paddling it now to the side of the circuit. So race 1 appears to be over for Dave Woolhams. He'll be retiring that bike. And the question we've got to ask now is, can the second place man, Laycock, close on the race leader? Dave Leach is mixed up in a battle all of his own. He's closing now on Michel Simeon from Belgium, the man who rides for the Belgian Suzuki importer. Goodness me, the front wheel of Leach's bike all over the road as he frantically goes up and down through the gearbox between the Armco. He's going for the outside line, and that's a brave attempt. Now switching across to the inside. Well, just watch these pictures. Sheer front brake almost put the camera out of action as Leach dived through, and I think he made it. Race leader then de Radiguez. Oh, goodness me. Look at Laycock, number 12, closing. The man from Dublin, still Tony Heiler in third. I beg your pardon, Robert Dunlop in third. Tony Hyler, number 18, of course. So Robert Dunlop, number 16, on the Aldridge Yamaha, is up into third place. Laycock closing then in second. Dunlop in third now. Goodness knows where he came from, but there's Willems, number 69, Dave Willems, out with the Ducati. But the two strokes very much alive at the front of the action. And there's a battle between Leach and Simeon, and Leach leaned on Simeon there. Left him absolutely nowhere to go. So Dave Leach has moved up a place. Michel Simeon, the Belgian who came off second best in that encounter, as Dave Leach moved up another notch. But still out in front, just, it's Didier de Radiguez. Brilliant stuff then. Can Laycock wind into Radiguez? That's what we've got to ask ourselves. We're going to take a short break. Join us again here at Macau. Welcome back to Macau. We're really in the thick of the action here because the battle alive at the front. Look at this, and going for the inside now. Eddie Laycock squeezing through. And that was a brave attempt, but he got the drop there on Didier de Radiguez. Laycock now leads leg one of the 25th Macau Grand Prix. So Laycock now with something like a 20-yard cushion on the Joe Miller YZR 500 Yamaha, the least 500cc V4 Grand Prix bike, which he's campaigned so successfully in the entire World Series. Beautifully turned out, as you would expect. Laycock leads then. De Radiguez still there in second place. And the battle now is really between these two as they're onto the start-finish straight. One more time, head down for de Radiguez, but there's the gap. You can see it for yourselves. He's not closing at all. Third place, this man, Robert Dunlop, on the borrowed Yamaha. Tony Hyler, number 18, in fourth. McCallum and Roger Bennett, the Scotsman. There is Andy Hoffman in that familiar black and white spotted helmet and the green leathers. Half a second the gap between Laycock and de Radiguez. Absolutely no margin for error at all here. And a faller there, that looks, yeah, another one of the Japanese, Koyama. Ooh, I'm wincing for him because he looks just a little bit shaken and a bit second, and that looks like a right collarbone to me. Shoulder injury without a doubt. Third place man, number 16, Robert Dunlop, the tiny Ulsterman. Right with him on the Emonts Yamaha, number 18, Tony Hyler, pops the wheel up as he goes up a gear. Oh, dear me, and this is the Japanese. This is how it happened. The back end went a little bit of a high side, but not quite. But he went down heavily. The bike might have clipped him, I don't know. Back with first and second. Eddie Laycock, number 12, leads from the number 27 factory Suzuki of Didier de Radiguez, having his last ride in the 1991 season and possibly his last ride per se, because the hot rumor is that he's retiring, maybe to make a comeback as a world superbike contender, or the other hot rumor is team management. Maybe run a 250cc Grand Prix team is a possibility. Tony Hyler then is back in front of Dunlop. There is Roger Bennett. Then Phil McCallum has been pushed down to sixth place, but de Radiguez is going through on the inside again of Eddie Laycock. So the Belgian now up to the race lead. Third place, it's still number 18, Tony Hyler. And de Radiguez now back in front. It could have been that he was having a bit of a game with the Irishman, but I doubt it, because Eddie Laycock was really on the pace in practice. Second fastest, and would have been very keen to have won this leg one. But he's in second place now then. The Joe Miller Yamaha. And the battle going on very much between Robert Dunlop and Tony Hyler. There's the race leader, however, still Didier de Radiguez. Settling now into some sort of stability, but well into the race. De Radiguez leads. Still Laycock in second. And the caution flag out. The caution flag out, so we have an incident. At this point, the rider's not able to overtake. They have to maintain station, and another faller into the rails there. That looks as though that might be Tony Hyler. That looks as though that might be Tony Hyler lying absolutely prone, and he was in third place. The rest of the riders coming very steadily round that. Now, could it be that the race is going to be stopped? That being the case, then the positions will stand as they were at the end of the lap preceding the stoppage. At which point, de Radiguez, of course, was in front. So no question about the race position, but we're looking, in fact, to see they're endeavouring now to move. Yes, it is. Emox Yamaha, that's Tony Hyler. The third place man, then, lying prone on the circuit. Try and bring you an update on that situation as soon as I can. But there you have the top six. de Radiguez, Laycock, Dunlop. Phil McCallum has got the better of Roger Bennett, and Andy Hoffman doing a sterling job then, with 2 laps to go down there in 6th place. Dave Leach, our cameraman, just out of the top 6, so he is going very well indeed. Dave Leach, admirably suited to this sort of going. Another faller, the cement dust obscuring the view, but someone else then retiring a machine there, or could have been a blow-up. That could be an awful lot of smoke we're seeing. Rider obviously fit and well, just walking away from the bike. But that's it, the race is stopped. So the race is stopped after 10 laps. The red flag is out. The result, de Radiguez got it from Laycock. Join us again for race 2, and every bit as thrilling, we hope. And I'll give you the best update I possibly can on the position with Tony Hyler, the man who fell. But there's the winner of leg 1, Didier de Radiguez on the factory Suzuki. For Heat 2, then, of the Macau Grand Prix, let me tell you very quickly, Tony Hyler, the man who fell from 3rd place and caused the race 1 to be stopped, was only concussed. He was taken to hospital for observation, concussion then, bit of a headache for a couple of days, but Tony Hyler otherwise fit and well. They line up as they finished the first race. In other words, the result, de Radiguez won it from Eddie Laycock. Robert Dunlop was in 3rd. Then it was Phil McCallum, the Silcoline Honda man, who would very much like to reverse the roles if possible in this leg 2. So 28 riders start leg 2, 15 laps, 57 miles, the full race distance, a massive wheelie for de Radiguez, right in his wheel tracks. Phil McCallum, number 9, had a brilliant start on the Silcoline Honda. De Radiguez leads then, another poor start for Eddie Laycock. McCallum, number 9, in 2nd, slotting through, however, into 2nd place, Andy Hoffman, number 6. So Andy Hoffman from Roger Bennett. A great start. Donald Jacks as well on the massive 1100cc GSXR 1100 Suzuki. So Donald Jacks from America, a cracking start for him, but Hoffman in 2nd place. Threading their way through the perils of this pure road circuit speak for themselves, don't they? My goodness me, absolutely nowhere to go should you get into trouble, and yet the riders apparently throwing all caution to the wind. And Dave Leach is where we are with the camera. And we'll be cutting back to Dave Leach from time to time for the rider's eye view, or the rider's knee view, as it were, because the camera is down on the right-hand side of the bike. Eddie Laycock having to work hard in the traffic, but a great start by Phil McCallum, who needs to improve on his first race 4th place. And an equally brilliant start by Andy Hoffman, who's really putting Didier de Radiguez, number 27, under pressure. Hoffman then it's Roger Bennett, then it's Donald Jacks, then it's Phil McCallum, Robert Dunlop, there's Eddie Laycock. And behind Eddie Laycock, all sorts of traffic. The number 96 rider there, the identity of whom escapes me for a moment, but Peter Rabato, number 8, is back on the pace after only completing 2 laps of the first race, and that was a big disappointment for him. Number 3 going through there, Mike Meskel from the Republic of Ireland on yet another Yamaha, but a Yamaha OW01 4-cylinder 4-stroke, as opposed to the Yamaha V4 500cc 2-stroke, which Eddie Laycock, fellow countryman, is riding, and rode to 2nd place in race 1. De Radiguez then. Andy Hoffman, Roger Bennett on the sports motorcycles Ducati. There's Phil McCallum. But right up there in fourth place, Donald Jacks from the USA on the monstrous, in fact, rumour has it that it's bigger than an 1100cc Suzuki, which he has just completed the Suzuki Cup in the USA on, to great effect. Number 59 then, that's Donald Jacks. In fourth place and looking very menacing indeed, Roger Bennett on the Ducati having a brilliant ride. The hot tip is that Bennett will campaign a Ducati for sports motorcycles in the British Championship Series in 1992. So a good break for the Scotsman. Just look at this lot then, shoulder to shoulder. Steve Hislop, number 1, trying to find his way through, but not the easiest thing to do in the world. Steve Hislop taken just a little bit wide by Bob Jackson there, and Hislop has had a miserable day. Last year's winner, not putting it together at all. Beautiful conditions here. The crowd lining the Armco circuit. Everyone on big fat slick tyres and a right mixture of machinery. There's Dave Leach with the on-bike camera firmly mounted down on the right-hand side of the bike. Cameras, of course, these days no bigger than a marker pen, I think is a fair statement. Technology has marched on at such a pace. Mark Farmer from Crawley on the Colin Aldridge Kawasaki. Farmer, the man who's ridden the Roton, the Brian Crichton rotary engine device in recent months in the UK, and is tipped to campaign that next year as well. So that'll be an interesting situation on the British scene, and a lot for the fans to look forward to around the circuits of Britain. Phil McCallan, number 9, squeezing every ounce of power out of the Silcoline Honda, giving it his best shot, I think it's fair to say. Fellow countryman Robert Dunlop is about as close as he can be without taking paint off the back end of McCallan's bike going into that bend. And this is Dave Leach. Number 19, Roger Bennett, has got the better of Andy Hoffman and has moved up a pace, but those two now stretching out in front. Bennett, number 6, Hoffman. There's Donald Jacks on the Suzuki. The blue livery of Jack Suzuki right there behind Hoffman. Look at Bennett on the Ducati, the lovely bellowing tone. De Radiguez leads, number 27. And in the picture there, looks like Dave Willems, who has been lapped. Dave Willems on another Ducati, number 69. Yes, it is indeed. So Dave Willems coming under pressure now from Roger Bennett, Andy Hoffman, Donald Jacks. And the rest of them sorting themselves out. I think Steve Hislop having a fairly cautious ride is about the only way I can describe it, and I have to say that it's a brave man who rides at all on this circuit. A lot of the riders come over here and make something of a holiday of it. And when you look at the weather, you can hardly blame them, can you? Didier de Radiguez. And Roger Bennett then up into second place, having a great ride. Hoffman, Jacks, McCallan, Dunlop. Now, the interesting situation between McCallan and Dunlop. Dunlop beat Phil McCallan in leg 1. He has to reverse the roles. And the margin, to the best of my estimation, is something in the excess of 1.2 seconds he has to beat Dunlop by in order to clinch third place overall. But he has to also get past Hoffman if at all possible. Number 22 retiring there, that's Dave Goodings. So Dave Goodings retiring up against the Armco barrier. But this is the battle for second place. Second place man, you're looking at him now, number 19, Roger Bennett. Jacks is now up to third, having gone past Hoffman. And that is only good news for Phil McCallan, who has now got Andy Hoffman in his sights. Look at the spectators in that grandstand, all along the start-finish area. real vantage points, and believe you me, the sound of these bikes echoing between the hotels which line the roadside circuit. Phil McCallan, Robert Dunlop now is right at the back end of that pursuing bunch. The gap then nearly 6 seconds between the race leader and Roger Bennett in second place, who's looking as though he's going to lose second place to Donald Jacks on the big Suzuki, who throws the GSX-R 1100 through on the inside, almost into the Armco, but he's grabbed second, I think. Yes, he has. Jacks then up to second. What an astonishing ride the American's having. Roger Bennett pushed down to third. As Jacks now with a clear road ahead of him, well, if you can call it clear. Great stuff. Robert Dunlop, meanwhile, keeping a watching brief on the back end of everything, just seeing if he can squeeze that Yamaha upper place. A wheelie again from Didier de Radiguez as he pops the front wheel in the air, but still 6 seconds to cushion. No sign yet of Eddie Laycock, who had another very, very dismal start. This is the race leader still, number 27, Didier de Radiguez, well and truly in command of the situation here at Macau. And an interesting comment from Kevin Schwantz, who's been around the circuit for the whole of this week, was that on his memorable win here, he was restricted to the use of one front tyre, and that explains why he was wheeling around most of the circuit. Number 50 retiring. Identity escapes me. I'll see if I can bring that one to you. And that's one of the Americans. That's Randy Herndon out of the running, so he qualified well down. He was only the fourth off the very bottom of the qualifying order, so here very much for the ride. This is second place, third. And now Eddie Laycock, number 12, is making his way up through the field. Laycock then currently sitting in fourth place. This is the second place man, Donald Jacks, on the Suzuki, number 59. Riding now with Dave Leach. Just breathe in as we go past this rider, and Leach indeed does it. No, he doesn't. He was having a good hard look there at the inside, but it took a braver man than Dave Leach. Either that or the bike just simply wasn't quick enough. So Yorkshireman Leach then moves out to have another go, and he's going to do it this time on the brakes, and does indeed. And the man he replaced there was Ian Duffus, the Scot. So Ian Duffus on the Honda was pushed down another place again by our mobile cameraman Dave Leach. And just ahead of you, you saw a black dot disappearing into the distance. And look at this, that's Hislop as well. So we've got an Englishman and two Scotsmen battling it out now, and Steve Hislop is behind the bike we are riding with right now. Race leader, however, Didier de Radiguez, still supremely confident round this Macau circuit, deep into the race, and apparently Eddie Laycock has absolutely no answer this time, and I have to put that down to the, pathetic isn't the word, but pretty sluggish starts by Laycock. The battle of the Japanese there, Hislop and Dave Leach still slugging it out, but Dave Leach has just got the edge. These two, of course, no strangers to each other's riding. They're both TT veterans, and Hislop, of course, the fastest man around the Isle of Man circuit. It's looking now as though it might even be Phil McCallan, chased by Robert Dunlop still. Third place man, you're looking at him, that's Laycock. The Dubliner then in third, but he knows what he has to do. He's got to get past Donald Jacks if he's going to have a chance at all at having a crack at the race leader. The battle for second then gets onto the straight again and going for second place. Oh, dear me. Zap. It's as easy as that. You just wind the throttle open. Roger Bennett it is who's got the better of Phil McCallan, number 9. So let's count them down. First, Didier de Radiguez. Second place, Eddie Laycock. Third place, Donald Jacks. We're with him now. Then in fourth place, it looks like Roger Bennett. Or rather, I can hear the Ducati bellowing out of the turn as he goes up through the gearbox. Laycock then nicely in second. Nobody's going to take second place, I think, away from him. The battle really is about which one of the two Ulstermen, Phil McCallan or Robert Dunlop, is going to bring in third overall. And I think that's really what it hinges on now, because Donald Jacks is really striving to get the Suzuki back on terms with Eddie Laycock's Yamaha, but I think in vain. But what a tremendous ride for the American on a huge motorcycle on a very, very difficult circuit. Laycock then still in second. De Radiguez, marginally narrow, I think, the gap. Very, very tight between Laycock and Jacks. And you can see it for yourself just how close it is. Going into the dying stages of this race. De Radiguez is going to lift the checkered flag, I suspect. Oh, and the pace is getting hotter, and far from Didier de Radiguez cruising home to this one. He's really having to work for it, because we now have a three-man scrap for this race. De Radiguez, Laycock and Jacks right in your picture now. Then Roger Bennett, McCallan and Andy Hoffman has pushed Robert Dunlop out of that coveted 6th spot. But the battle is far from over, and the crowd are on their toes now, because they sense that the man from Dublin, Eddie Laycock, might just be in with a chance of a win here. Didier de Radiguez having to work the Suzuki now, Donald Jacks being dropped away. This is the 4th place man approaching on the booming Ducati. Roger Bennett, number 19. Phil McCallan, and Andy Hoffman now has dropped back again behind Robert Dunlop, who's coming out loud. Look at this. This is the battle for 4th, 5th and 6th. 4th place man, Roger Bennett, hanging on to the front brake with the rear end of the Ducati sliding all over the road. And little Robert Dunlop, who rides a 750 with consummate ease, equally at home on the big uns as the screaming 125 on which he galloped to the 1991 British Championship win. I think galloped was the operative word, because there wasn't really anyone, with the exception of Rob Orme, I suspect, who had a chance of taking that title away from Robert Dunlop. So extremely talented indeed, Dunlop, but he's now setting about what he knows he has to do, and that is beat the man at the tail end of this shot now, number 9, Phil McCallan, his fellow countryman, who in turn is desperately trying to close on the Ducati of Roger Bennett, number 19. And that's the battle we're looking at right now, threading themselves through the very narrow streets here at Macau. 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. Andy Hoffman then, number 6 on the bike, 7th in the race. The Ducati, tremendous round there. The big bellowing 900cc V-twin. Such a bike. Just about decimated the World Superbike Series in the hands of Doug Poland. And they really are a force to be reckoned with in all sorts of competition. Very reliable, masses and masses of torque, and very quick indeed. Now, up to 2nd place and really scrapping hard now, Eddie Laycock, who is right with Didier de Radiguez. Just 20 yards separates the two factory two-strokes. Suzuki leads Yamaha. De Radiguez leads Laycock. Still it's Donald Jacks in 3rd, but this is the battle now for the lead here at Macau in the 25th Macau Motorcycle Grand Prix. 57 miles was the full distance, and a fairly lonely ride for this 3rd place man, number 59, Jacks. And he is very much aware of what's going on behind him, because out of the slipstream of Bennett comes Phil McCallan and goes through, and Robert Dunlop eclipses the pair of them going into the right-hander. So Dunlop now is in front of Phil McCallan. Dunlop on his way to what looks like 3rd place overall here at Macau. Laycock still in 2nd, but really piling on the coals, 140.6. That is 2 kilometers an hour quicker than he went in race 1. And quite a bit quicker than he went in practice. In fact, best practice time 1:40.32, so he's equaled his best practice. Dave Woolam's again retiring his Ducati at the trackside. Not a very happy trip at all for Dave Woolam's, but at least he's well and walking, and that's important. Jacks then in third. Now, where's the... Oh my, look at this freight train of activity. Out of the left-hander, right up against the Armco. Now, who is it? Looks like Dunlop in front. Dunlop, yes it is. Number 16, Robert Dunlop. Then it's Phil McCallan. Then Roger Bennett has been squeezed back down. So Bennett, who was in fourth, is now down to sixth. They're not giving an inch now. And Phil McCallan having another look. And Bennett, oh, side by side, everything locked up. And look at Bennett coming round. Oh, clipped the Armco, but just about skirted it there. And that just gave him a little bit of a fright, I think. And Phil McCallan, number 9, went through. That was a brave move. And a trifle hairy by Roger Bennett. Have to be careful not to get our Bennetts and our Burnett's mixed up in this. Bennett, of course, the man number 19 from Scotland. Roger Burnett, number 10, who has retired his Team Britain Honda with carburetor problems. Very sportingly loaned his carburetors to Steve Hislop, who was having trouble with the aged ex-Carl Fogarty RC30 in practice, so Roger Burnett felt that there was more to be gained by letting Hislop have the right equipment. A very sporting gesture. Race leader, Didier de Radiguez, number 27. Still under a little bit of pressure, albeit some 2.5 seconds behind him from Eddie Laycock, the number 12 Yamaha. Yeah, I think my earlier assumption might have been correct. It looks as though de Radiguez now, realizing that it's about time he pulled his finger out, has stretched the gap and is getting away now from Eddie Laycock. He has been second on 2 previous occasions. This is his 3rd visit to the Macau Grand Prix, and it will be a very nice note on which to end a distinguished Grand Prix motorcycling career for Didier de Radiguez across 250, 350 and the 500cc spectrum. Runner-up in the 350cc title in 1982, I believe. Anyone who disagrees with that, I've no doubt, will put pen to paper to screen sport. But if my memory serves me well, that was the situation. But look at this now. Robert Dunlop then ahead of Phil McCallan. Andy Hoffman is closing. I think the Ducati of Roger Bennett is fading from the picture now. Obviously has some sort of problem. That's a pity because the Scot was in brilliant form. 3rd fastest in practice and a superb first race. But the battle now between these two, and this is all about 4th. Robert Dunlop, number 16, from Phil McCallan from Ulster, and Andy Hoffman in the black and white spotted helmet, number 6, is in 6th place in the race. Dunlop then still. Phil McCallan stalking him through the steel-lined streets of Macau. I think they're riding, oh, and I can hear the Ducati just of Roger Bennett hanging on the end of these, but he's now 4 seconds behind in 7th place. And there you can see it. Donald Jack still in that 3rd place, a very safe ride. And Dunlop, McCallan, Hoffman, we're watching them now as they go out towards the bay. Hopefully they all turn left. And yes, indeed, they do. And be mindful of the fact that this is a borrowed motorcycle for Robert Dunlop. A Colin Aldridge Yamaha, an unfamiliar machine. Although Robert Dunlop has ridden a variety of motorcycles over the years and has in fact had the odd outing on Yamaha. will have to work to keep ahead of Phil McCallan, number 9, who knows what he's got to do. So these two gentlemen will be getting their pit signals. Phil McCallan, number 9, must get past Robert Dunlop and beat him by something of a margin in the order of 1.2 seconds-ish in order to guarantee himself third place overall. Dunlop riding really well indeed. As the time ticks away, race leader Didier de Radiguez now well out in front. They've just lapped the number 23, and that's Hyuga, the Japanese who fell in leg 1. Dunlop still then, Phil McCallan number 9, then still Andy Hoffman. This looks as though Phil McCallan doesn't really have an answer now for Robert Dunlop. He's obviously trying, but there's a limit to what a man can do on a circuit like this. You just can't be totally disrespectful of the safety aspect and the Armco barrier, designed primarily, of course, for Formula 3 cars, and there's been a fair amount of car action as well this weekend here at Macau. And I think he's closing. It looks as though Phil McCallan might just be closing down the gap slightly on Robert Dunlop, who is at the head of this trio. Out towards the bay again. Just 6 miles from Hong Kong as the crow flies, and up comes the wheel of the Aldridge Yamaha as Robert Dunlop just tweaked the throttle overmuch. That was at the point at which Tony Hyler departed from the first race. Hoffman went very wide indeed, and the back end just stepped out ever so slightly. Dunlop looked over his left shoulder, but Phil McCallan was in actual fact threatening on the right-hand side. And I think McCallan is closing. I think Phil McCallan has made up his mind that he's going to go past his fellow countryman within the next lap or two and try and pull away. McCallan is really riding the socks off the Silcoline Honda. And with 3.8 miles ahead of them now, Didier de Radiguez then on his last lap. That's what it is round here. 3.8 miles to go. And is he going to do the last lap on the back wheel? I wonder. Something approaching it. De Radiguez then, another enormous wheelie up towards the left-hander. And now this is what we're talking about. Just look at Phil McCallan in the slipstream of Robert Dunlop. He's coming out on the outside, but there's no way through at the moment. Still a long way to go, but he's coming. He's gone over on the right-hand side, and he's on the right line here if he can pull this one off. If the tail ender doesn't get in the way, Dunlop switch back, but Phil McCallan has the line. McCallan then has gone past Dunlop, up to 4th place. Head down, tail up, and now he must go. He's got to make that gap just a little bit bigger. It's got to be well over a second if he's to clinch 3rd place overall. 4th place in this race will do it, but it has to be well ahead of Robert Dunlop. The race leader, meanwhile, Didier de Radiguez, looking pretty confident under the bridge. Another huge wheelie. Still in 2nd place, Eddie Laycock, who is a bit devoid of publicity at the moment, simply because he's having such a comfortable ride in 2nd. 3rd, even more devoid of publicity, Donald Jacks. And this is the battle for 4th place. And ahead of them, a tail ender, and the tail ender number 3, Mike Meskel, from the Republic of Ireland. The checkered flag is out for a mammoth wheelie from Didier de Radiguez. He takes the win, and he's not a little pleased with that. So de Radiguez then takes the win. There's the runner-up, Eddie Laycock, number 12. And that's no mean feat, getting that 1100 Suzuki up on its back wheel for Donald Jacks. Incredible then. Jacks pops the wheel back down. Those are tail enders. Number 15 is a tail ender. Number 25 is a tail ender. McCallum gets it from Dunlop. Now, I wonder what the gap was. The gap, 1.23. That might just about be enough. I'll have to wait for the caption on the overall result to tell you who gets it, but I think it was. Yep, Phil McCallum has done it. McCallum will get third place. De Radiguez the winner. Laycock, Jacks, McCallum, Dunlop, Hoffman. What an exciting 25th Macau Grand Prix. There's the overall. McCallum got it from Dunlop, Donald Jacks, Andy Hoffman, but Didier de Radiguez, a double win here at Macau. What a way to end a very distinguished career. Well, from Barry Nutley, I hope to talk to you again here on Screen Sport. Brilliant motorcycling. Join us again, if not for road racing, whenever I talk to you. God bless, goodbye.